The tension between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has become one of the most talked about topics in boxing, a clash that blends spectacle, skill, and ego into something few could have imagined even a few years ago. When Jake Paul speaks about preparing for the fight, there's a mix of swagger and sincerity in his tone. He insists that everything he's been through, the training, the setbacks, the criticism, has shaped him for this moment. He claims he's too sharp, too powerful, too disciplined to let this opportunity slip. For him, the noise that once made him nervous now fuels his ambition. He embraces the spotlight because he's always dreamed of standing under it. Across from him, Gervonta Davis doesn't flinch. The undefeated world champion, known for his explosive power and razor-sharp precision, doesn't need to talk himself up. His resume speaks for him: 3 division titles, 4 world championships, and a trail of opponents who underestimated his small stature only to meet his devastating counterpunches. Davis carries himself with calm certainty, a man who has nothing to prove yet still hungers to dominate. "I've got the complete package," he says quietly. "Power, timing, and skill." Their face-off feels like more than just a fight. It's a collision of 2 very different worlds. Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned prize fighter who's been both mocked and admired for turning viral fame into ring success. Gervonta Davis, the prodigy molded in the furnace of boxing tradition, who fought his way from the streets of Baltimore to global stardom. One represents disruption, the other represents legacy. And when those 2 worlds collide, something unpredictable always happens. Analysts are split. Jake Paul enters the fight with a significant size advantage. His frame, weight, and reach could give him the leverage to absorb damage and push Tank backward. But Davis isn't new to this. He spent his entire career dismantling bigger men, fighters with longer arms and higher weight classes. What they had in size, he erased with timing, precision, and speed. Boxing isn't just about who hits harder, it's about who hits first, and Tank has built his empire on that truth. Still, this fight has captured the world's attention because it's so absurdly mismatched on paper. This is the first time Jake Paul's fighting legitimate world champion, one commentator noted. Not an MMA star, not a faded veteran, a real, active, elite boxer. Even those who don't believe Jake has a chance admit that his journey from internet entertainer to legitimate contender has forced people to pay attention. Jake, however, sees this as the biggest test of his career, and maybe his chance to rewrite how the world perceives him. He openly acknowledges Tank's skill and pedigree, but he refuses to back down. "I know this is my toughest fight," he says. He's undefeated, one of the best pound for pound. "But I believe I'm stronger, more athletic. That's my advantage." His voice carries the kind of conviction that only someone who's learned to thrive under doubt can muster. For Jake Paul, survival isn't enough. He wants to shock the world. Meanwhile, Tank Davis doesn't seem fazed. The idea of fighting larger man doesn't intimidate him. In fact, he's faced power before, real power, and still come out untouched. Experts argue that Tank's ability to read opponents, to anticipate their every move before they even commit, will neutralize Jake's physicality. They believe once Tank closes the distance, Jake's advantages will evaporate. Yet, amid the tactical discussions, there's also spectacle. Boxing purists hate it, but they can't ignore it. Jake Paul brings an audience few athletes can match. Millions tune in, critics rage online, and suddenly boxing, a sport that struggled for mainstream attention, becomes the center of cultural conversation again. "This is what Jake Paul does," one analyst said. "He brings chaos, but he also brings eyes back to the ring." Still, not everyone sees this as a fair contest. Critics call it a freak show, pointing to the weight gap and questioning whether Tank is taking the sport seriously anymore. Some even speculate that the fight could mark the end of Davis' career, a final payday before stepping away from the chaos. Insiders whisper that Tank is ready to move on from the grind, that he's achieved everything he set out to do and now just wants peace and time with his family. If that's true, this fight could be more than a spectacle. It could be his curtain call. But not everyone buys that narrative. Veteran voices in the sport, like Teddy Atlas, have made it clear, Tank Davis is still a threat. Atlas reminds fans that skill always beats size when the gap in experience is this massive. He's seen everything: pressure fighters, long-range boxers, knockout artists, Atlas said. He's solved every one of them. Jake Paul's no different. Others, like Mike Parry, take a more skeptical stance. Parry argues that while Tank is still elite, he hasn't delivered the Sam highlight knockouts fans once expected. Against a bigger opponent like Jake, that could be dangerous. He's still great, Parry admitted, but Jake's size will test him in ways we haven't seen before. And then there's the business side of boxing, the side that no one likes to talk about but everyone knows runs the sport. Commentator Max Kellerman suggested that this fight might not be about legacy at all, but about cash. A matchup with Jake Paul guarantees tens of millions, no mandatory defenses, no political drama, just spectacle and payout. For a fighter like Tank, already decorated and wealthy, it's an easy path to a massive payday and a quiet exit. Yet, among the fans, there's a deeper concern. If champions like Davis choose spectacle over competition, what does that mean for the future of boxing? Critics argue that fighters ducking elite matchups for big money exhibitions will slowly drain the sport of its authenticity. They point to Tank turning down potential fights with elite contenders like Shakur Stevenson, arguing that boxing so lies in seeing the best face the best, not the richest face the most famous. Still, Tank's defenders counter that every fighter has the right to make decisions for their own life. You can't want greatness for someone more than they want it for themselves, one pundit said. If Tank wants peace, he's earned it. Whatever the motivation, these stakes are undeniable. This fight represents more than just two men in a ring. It's about the evolution of the sport itself, where entertainment collides with tradition, where social media influence meets generational talent. Jake Paul, the outsider, is chasing legitimacy. Tank Davis, the champion, may be chasing closure. When the bell rings, it won't just be about punches or knockouts. It'll be about whether power and hype can match skill and experience. And in that moment, all the noise, the doubts, and the debate will fade away, leaving only two fighters, one ring, and a world watching to see if the impossible happens. And as always, we want to hear from you. Do you think Jake Paul's size and determination can overcome Tank Davis' world-class skill? Or will Tank remind everyone why experience still reigns supreme? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.